I sold $3 million worth of products this year taking sales calls remotely. And today I really just want to break down exactly what it is I do, because a lot of people, I see them working 9 to 5 jobs. I see them working door-to-door jobs, cold calling, all these kind of unideal careers in my eyes. And it just doesn't really make sense to me when there's something like this that's just, it's so much easier in my opinion, you know? And basically, just a little bit of background, I used to do door-to-door sales. I used to work a 9 to 5, all this stuff. And it wasn't for me at all. Maybe that sounds cliche, but the reason it wasn't for me was not because, I'm not making enough money, it's hard, or, I want to escape the matrix. The reason it wasn't for me was because I couldn't do anything else. And I'll tell you, when I used to do door-to-door sales, I was the top door-to-door salesperson in my entire company. But I quit because it wasn't flexible for me. If I did door-to-door sales after my shift, that was all I could do the whole day. I was drained physically. I was drained, I was exhausted. And I wouldn't be able to do other businesses. I wouldn't have the mental capacity to handle my friends. And I just thought that really took away from what other things I could be doing. It kind of ate away at my opportunity cost. So I knew I had to find something where it's like, I can do this, make a lot of money, but I can still do the other things that I want to build. And, I want to have things going for me, not just one thing, right? So that's how I found what it is I do today. And I just literally do something called remote sales. And today I just want to break down exactly how this works, what I do, and just show you for, an honest proof and, whatever you want to call it. So what I do is basically called remote sales, right? It's pretty self-explanatory. I just take sales calls remotely. And I basically just sell something called info products, and AKA courses, AKA mentorships, whatever you want to call it, and you might be thinking, oh no, I've seen those online. It's a scam. I have a bad taste in my mouth after I see those. I mean, there are scams out there, but you have to realize with every single thing ever that you sell, there are good companies and there are bad companies. And the same thing goes for, remote sales. When you're selling mentorships, there's really good companies, but there's also really bad ones, right? And I'm lucky enough to be able to sell for an actual good company that does help people, right? And we do really well because of it. So how this works is, there's not much to it. I sit down, I take calls all day, maybe 5-6 hours, and that's it. And then after I kind of work on my YouTube business, I go hang with my friends and all that. So I'll show you here in a second. Let me just first break down how the actual process works. Door-to-door sales makes sense, right? Because you knock on someone's door, you kind of, talk to them and they buy, right? It makes sense how the actual process works, but I feel like nobody really explains a lot of these internet business models like dropshipping and remote sales and all these things. And it just doesn't, it sounds too good to be true in everybody's heads. And that's why they don't actually do it. So I'm just going to explain how it actually works. Basically, you go on YouTube and you'll see, for example, people selling a course, right? Iman Gaji, whoever this guy is. This guy's probably selling a course as well. Probably someone you guys have all seen is let's say Charlie Morgan, right? If you've been on YouTube, you've seen this guy's videos. Maybe you don't know what he sells, but here's how it works, right? For example, someone like you'll see their video or his video. Let's click this one. You want to be broke again in 2025, watch this. And at some point, he's going to say, hey, I'm selling this. If you think this is a good fit for you and you think I can help you, apply for my program. Boom. That's exactly, how he actually captures eyeballs, right? And then let's just say you as a customer, you want to work with him, you want his help, then he's going to advertise something here, right? You can see here's quite literally a link. You press the link. He's going to have some kind of video, and then he's going to have some kind of application, right? Or in some cases, they're just going to make you book a call. And you'll see here, quite literally, he's asking you to book a call for January. And you can imagine what happens on the call, right? You actually get sold. And the person that does the selling is me. And a lot of these offers can range between $4, $5, $6, $10, $20, $30,000. And typically a closer like myself will make around 10%. Okay. If we go back to the amount of money that I showed you here, it's about 3.2 million this year. My commissions are not exactly 10% because I sell some high ticket things. The total profit is somewhere around $200,000 USD. Now, kind of an inside look, right? So now I take the calls, but what does it look like for me? What is the kind of the opposite of the spectrum kind of look like for me, right? You know how it looks as a customer. How does it look like as the closer, which is, I'm hoping what you want to become. So here's my Google Calendar, right? This is kind of what my day looks like. I'll take calls from 8:30 to 2, and you'll see they'll all be scheduled for me here. I deleted the last names for all these people because I don't want to expose them. But you'll see here, for example, this day, it was just calls from 8:30 to 2, and it was about 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. In terms of how many were closed, I think this was actually a help call. This wasn't actually a sales call. The sales calls were, I think one, two, one. This was a sales call. That's 2 sales calls. 3. This is also a sales call, and this is also a sales call. So I took 4 actual sales calls. Some of these it's a little bit of a mix. I do some back-end stuff as well, but let's not get it twisted. Let's just, for purpose of, being simple, I took 4 sales calls on this day. Okay. And the commission for each of these was about, I think is around anywhere between $400 to $900, depending on the payment plan, right? I remember it was a mix of both. So assuming like we meet in the middle, it's about $600 per actual call, right? I closed around 4 calls this day. It was around 2.4K in profit for me, right? Now, does that happen every single day where I make 2.4K, right? Not every single day, right? But most days, if you average it out, if I made around $200,000 this year, you do the math, right? And again, I don't work every single day. Now, a lot of people think, oh my God, that's so simple. Like, how can it be? I'm telling you, this is quite literally how it is. And this looks like the dream. I get it. This looks like the dream if you've been in door-to-door sales, because you're inside and, the calls are scheduled for you. And I'll tell you right now, the closing percentages are very high. In remote sales, as opposed to door-to-door sales, you have to realize the clients are coming to you. You're not chasing out to them, So the close rates are really high. And on this day where I had probably about between 4 and 6 actual sales call, I probably closed about anywhere from between 70 and 80% of them. So, and yeah, I know you're thinking 70, 80% is ridiculous, but it is that high, so this is exactly why I don't understand why other people do different jobs. So, working a 9-to-5 job, working a door-to-door sales job, when you can just do this, right? Now, obviously this industry has its cons as well. It's very competitive. A lot of people really want to get into this, but the reality is, if you're driven, you have an actual good work ethic, right? And you know who you are if I'm saying this, you're going to be fine. You would have made it in any industry. So it's not so much, sometimes we have to not focus on, oh my God, I need to just work as hard as possible, right? Which is very respectable. But I notice a lot of people with this mentality, you guys don't focus on the smart thing to do. And hard work is always so glorified these days. It's like, oh my God, you need to just hammer in 24/7, just work as hard as you can. And you're right. And it's a very commendable thing to do. And nobody's going to look down on you for that. But imagine you worked as hard as you could on the best thing possible, right? You watching this, you probably have the work ethic. You are able to, be better than 99% of people because you can work as hard as you can. And that's why you're able to get the results that a lot of people aren't able to get. But how often have you actually thought about, am I doing the smartest thing possible? Am I in a position where I'm in the smartest thing, the best vehicle for success, right? You probably haven't. And a good example I can give is like, if you look at Jeff Bezos, right? Jeff Bezos, I guarantee you, there's a lot of billionaires and, people who are really rich that aren't necessarily, Jeff Bezos isn't smarter than them, right? But why is it that he's the richest man in the world as opposed to them? It's because he picked the best business model, right? And this is why I have to emphasize so much. It's like, guys, work hard, but also make sure you think about what you're doing and you are in the right opportunity, okay? Because good could be better, all right? Now, if you want to start something like this, you don't need to be like, you might need to think, oh my God, I need to, it's going to be super competitive. I mean, it's going to be tough as fuck. Like, I can't sell. You don't really need any of that. Like, the most important thing in this industry specifically is really just actual good work ethic. And it's something that I've noticed along the years is like, it's harder to find somebody who is not only like having good morals, but also actually has good work ethic. It's harder to find that person than to find someone who's skilled in a specific thing. It's kind of crazy how that works, but if you can have the right work ethic, you're going to crush it in this industry. In terms of the 2 things you obviously need to have, it's just, you need to find an offer and you obviously need to get good at sales, right? In terms of how you find the offer, you'll go on something called Facebook groups. So I'll just show you an example right here. All you got to do is just search up, for example, sales groups. For example, boom, right here, right? And you'll see that there's people like, for example, this guy, he's posting, hey, he needs high ticket DM setters. And you could make, $2,000 to $4,000 a month with this. And this is the first one that we say, right? And you'll see people who, your on target earnings is $100,000 to $250,000 per year. Right? And you're just applying to these, you do it over and over again. If you don't have experience, you really got to show that you have a special work ethic and you're different than other people. But that's why I said, if you have work ethic, you're going to make it because you can stand out from other people who maybe the only thing that they have to offer is just skill, right? If you can be skilled and have an amazing work ethic, people might take a flyer on you. So that's how you find an offer. In terms of how you get good at sales, the main frame that I kind of take is, and this is something that I've always done through, door-to-door sales and, cold calling and, all the things I've been successful at. You really just kind of think about what you could do better, and it's as cliche as it sounds, that's just how you actually improve, and I'll notice a lot of door-to-door salespeople, they'll knock doors and they'll take pride in the wrong thing, right? They'll take pride in the fact that they can face rejection. And that kind of pushes them. Their mentality is, don't stop, man. Just knock more. When in reality, it's like, yes, knock more, great. But there's a reason why you're on a slump right now. There's a reason why you're not selling anyone. It's because you're just not doing sales as good as you could be, right? So again, going back to the whole work ethic, versus, actually being smart about things, it's kind of a combination of both. So when it comes to actually getting good at sales, you really need to just have the ability to stop knocking and just think to yourself, what was it that I could have done better? I messed up on this objection. For some reason, I said this and I got this reaction out of the customer. What could I have said instead? And you kind of just sit there and think. A perfect example is like, have you ever gotten in an argument with someone, right? And you go in the shower, and you start thinking, oh my God, that would have been a perfect fucking comeback, right? It's the same thing for sales, right? Obviously, you're not fighting with the customer. You're not roasting people, but you get my point, all right? You have to be passionate about the reflection process, and you're going to come up with an answer, and that answer is what you could have done better. And if you actually do that answer, you actually apply that to the next door you knock or the next call you take, that's how you get really, really good at sales, because that stuff just compounds, right? And a really good frame that I like to keep is I like to always think in terms of what would an expert do? Right? And this is just something that's really helped me. I used to watch a lot of Jordan Belfort videos, right? The Wolf of Wall Street. And every single time I would screw up on an objection, I would just think to myself, okay, what would Jordan Belfort say? And a lot of times it's like, we know kind of what we need to do. It's just having the right frame to apply it. Like if you think about yourself, right? When you do something dumb, right? A lot of times you know that it's a dumb thing you're doing. Like, for example, when you reach for the chocolate bar versus, the actual protein shake, for example. You know that reaching for the chocolate bar is wrong, right? But you're not thinking in the right frame. If you made that decision with, okay, what would a healthy person do? You probably would have reached for the protein shake. And it's the same thing in sales. If you think in terms of what an expert would actually do, you'll get the right answer, right? And even if you don't get the right answer, you'll be on the right path to finding out what the right answer is. Now, the one most underrated tool that I probably should have used a lot more when I was actually doing sales is cheat codes. Just like you kind of, find answers for these kinds of sales objections and stuff, there's cheats, you can have somebody else kind of just tell you exactly what to say, right? And this is something that if I had in my door-to-door or any sales career or position ever that I had, it would have fast-tracked me so much. Because I'm just imagining now, imagine I had the objection, I had to think about it, or I don't want this, it's too expensive, right? I had to sit there for an hour and think, what would be the right thing to say? If I had just said someone else, right? Maybe somebody behind me say, no, dude, you have to say this specific line instead. That is quite literally a cheat code. They cut out the time that it would take me to think about what I should have said instead, right? And maybe I didn't even get the right thing on the first try. I would have to do it again and again and again and do enough reflection until I actually find out what the right answer is. And this is exactly why today, with the free time I have for remote sales, I offer coaching, right? Because I know that I can save my client time and I can cut down on how long it takes for them to be successful with remote sales. And I can make money from the actual process as well, right? It's a win-win for both. Now, I want to make it as clear as possible, right? You can definitely make this work on your own. You don't need a mentor. You don't need this at all. But the main thing a mentor really provides is they cut down on the amount of time it would have taken you to succeed. If you think about one thing you're good at, maybe you're really good at basketball or soccer or tennis or chess, whatever it is, whatever skill level you're at right now, if you could teach your younger self, your 9, 10, however old you were when you first started that thing, if you could teach them with the skills that you know now, you could teach your younger self, how long do you think it would have actually taken you to get to the skill level you're at, right? Probably a lot fucking shorter. And this is exactly why I offer coaching for remote sales. So if this sounds interesting to you, sign up for a free call below and we'll see if it's a good fit to basically work together one-on-one. And I'll teach you A to Z, step by step, even if you're a complete beginner, how to actually get to 10K a month and more with remote sales.